Well, the Bruins are going bowling even closer than possible. And, well, the first net rankings are out, and UCLA isn't impressing in that. How can they get better as the season goes along? Here on Locked On UCLA.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making the show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. So like, comment, subscribe, become an everydayer because we're ready to dive into all the craziness that is the portal season, bowl season, in the midst of the fun of the non-conference part for UCLA men's basketball. And hey, UCLA women's hoops, they're number 2 in the country. They need some love as well. We'll give it to them all in this episode on Locked On UCLA, which is brought to you by LinkedIn, because every potential new hire feels like a high-stakes wager, like it is for the UCLA defensive coordinator position, which is why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people faster for your team. And for free, post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. And despite all the Danton Lynn talk of him going across town, despite the fire Chip Kelly nonsense, we're going to start because all the craziness of the UCLA football team has really taken us away, at least my attention a little bit, from UCLA basketball's start, right? Mick Cronin's start on the men's side, 5-2 over the Bruins, despite a sick with an illness, I believe a COVID-like illness for Mick Cronin, who missed that game against UC Riverside, which should have been a much easier game. I've seen UC Riverside over the last couple of seasons in person. They're a scrappy mid-major team, well coached. They tend to play fun, crisp basketball. They did turn it over 16 times against the Bruins, but they do like to shoot their three-point shots, and they made enough to stay in this game. Even when the Bruins pulled away, UCLA does not pull away. UC Riverside came back and had the Bruins on the verge of losing at home, which would have broken the longest active home winning streak. In addition, just giving the Bruins an embarrassing early season loss, which they truly shouldn't have had. And in the end, they didn't, as Dylan Andrews saved them at the end. They're 66-65 dub. 5-2, as I talked about, the net rankings are out. UCLA in the hundreds. There's a difference between Ken Palm and net, right? You'd think of net, it's how do they rate the wins and your scheduling a little bit. Ken Palm is a different analytical scheme, and it's very early on for both of those things. But for net, it rates what UCLA's done with wins. And all of UCLA's wins have been home wins against teams in a lower weight class, and then a neutral site win, basically a road win, at a D2 school when they played Chaminade at the Stan Sheriff Center in the Maui Invitational. Even though you play close to Marquette, play close to Gonzaga, that won't boost up your net ranking, which is one of the key ways you analyze if you're a committee. And if you've just noticed over the weekend, you really don't want to leave it to a committee. What UCLA's brand is probably big enough that they would probably get in. Although, I don't know, after we saw from the college football playoff, which is not officially run by the NCAA, you don't want to leave that up to chance. The Bruins need to stack up dubs. And I expect that to happen for Mick Cronin, but it's not going to happen, one, when Adem Bona is making freshman-like mistakes, fouling out in only 13 and a half minutes played. I thought we were over this. I know he's going to make mistakes. He's still a youngster. This is why he came back to develop. One, even with the shoulder injury, even with the labrum surgery and tear that he suffered at the end of the previous season, Bona wasn't a ready NBA product. So it's great, one, for him, I think, personally, to develop his game into a more NBA-ready game, and two, for the Bruins, because you get the reigning Pac-12 Freshman of the Year in your roster, on your team, who's going to start generally a boatload of minutes and make big contributions for the team in every place, including the hustle stats, the additional stats, whether it's hustling after a play, running up and down the court. He can set that tone energy-wise, enthusiasm-wise, hustle-wise, but that does get him into trouble. And we saw that happen against UC Riverside, where Bona's on the floor, just simply Bona alone, besides the other stuff. Bona alone can be fantastic. But in a game where he gets 4 points, 4 fouls, 4 turnovers, or 5 fouls, 4 rebounds, 4 points, 4 turnovers, and fouls out, he was plus 17 on the court in his 13 and a half minutes. UCLA won this game by a point. You can go up and down with plus minus, but Adem Bona was plus 17 when he was on the court individually in a 1-point win over a scrappy mid-major squad on the other side. If he's on the court, especially when you're going to play some of these teams in the coming weeks, when you're going to play, if UCLA gets themselves a very good seed, you're going to play a team that will maybe schematically play like UC Riverside, a little smaller. If they're well coached, they can do good things offensively and defensively. If they play well in a March Madness game, then they might get the Cinderella three-point shooting bug and start knocking them down. That is a recipe for disaster. Despite a UCLA team that has struggled to guard the three, you've got to keep your big men out of foul trouble and get your big men on the floor to help with rebounding the basketball, being quicker, everything. So Bona has to stay on the floor. He cannot be making those same mistakes year in and year out from freshman year to sophomore year. You're allowed a one-game blip, but with a whole week off and some topics that we need to think about, Bona, he's a leader. He's a young leader. He's a growing leader, and they're not a finished product by any means. And we saw that on display in that game against Riverside. Bona, 3 shots. It wasn't his best game. He got the job done. Adem Bona started next to him. Berke still getting his feet wet in the collegiate game, getting everything back, and then he gets hurt. So in this game against Riverside, we have to remember, one, there's no Coach Cronin, who after this game would have given us so many great post-game quotes immediately after the game that I think Savino was probably sitting there wondering, oh goodness, can I do my best Mick Cronin impression, or do I want to give these guys a mental break from what would have been a Mick Cronin verbal lashing in the locker room? Doesn't matter. When Berke gets banged up, I wonder the availability moving forward and everything, because I know they had the Villanova game in a week. I probably missed it. I've been looking at a lot of portal craziness, looking at the coaching scheme. So I probably just missed the Berke news. So I'll try and update that as much as possible. But a long break between the Riverside game and the Nova game when you travel across country to play a team that you would hope to be in the top 15, top 16 in a true road environment. Unfortunately, they just can't seem to be in the school within a 5-mile radius of their campus in Villanova. So we hope the Bruins can go beat Villanova. And if Berke's healthy, he needs minutes. He needs time on the floor. 9.5 minutes is not going to cut it. Maybe found some things, 6 points, 3 rebounds, drew 3 fouls. He was a 0 on the floor in terms of plus minus. So the Bruins were even when he was on the court. Still, you would like him to get that development with that scoring touch, stretch out the defense with the 3 or 2. That is important for UCLA to see Berke's development and conditioning get through. If he's healthy, he was sick a little bit, took a long time for him to get eligible, and now he just needs to be healthy moving forward, because I would like to believe he's the most ready to play all-around freshman. Elon Fible does have the athleticism and the fun intangibles that Mick Cronin likes to compare to Jalen Clark, but I think Berke has the better all-around game that can develop quicker than Amada. V-Day is hardly seeing the floor. So the international freshman, I would say Berke can do more for the team as a whole. I know Fible will do a lot for UCLA defensively and rebounding. Still, we got to see Berke and Bona get on the floor. Stay on the floor, foul trouble for one, and get healthy for the other. Mata, he's working in there, right? There's a lot of development there, and I want to see more from him. We'll leave the Mata talks for later down the line. Positivity, one, you win the game. You scrap through, you blow a late 11-point lead, you allow a team to shoot 44% from 3. And while there have been lapses guarding the 3-point line this season, teams, even if you take away Chaminade's 9 for 36 from 3 against the Bruins from Maui, that 25%er for Chaminade, the Bruins are only allowing 31% from 3. Now, that's not the best number a defense can be, but that's certainly not the worst for a Mick Cronin team. That's not the worst three-point defense. He'll certainly want to get that under 30% to be an elite defense to counter UCLA's lack of three-point shooting, even though Will McClendon has found a spark. Will McClendon, Mick Cronin was preaching it, talking about it. He is somebody that off the bench, if he's putting in 11 points or hitting a couple of clutch threes, that's exactly what the Bruins need, which he did down the stretch. I am extremely happy that he's getting big shots. And while he's not necessarily putting up 36, 37 minutes, his minutes are huge and instrumental in changing the tide of the game. When the game is either in reach, out of reach, it's a couple of McClendon threes that during the course of this season will make it and end a 17-0 Marquette run, right? When you needed a bucket, if McClendon puts up a three and makes it, that can change a game, right? If it's a big run late in the game, that dagger triple will probably be knocked down by McClendon. If it's that unlikely hero to hit a three in March, who's it going to be? I'd like it to be Big Shot Will over there in the corner, knocking down a triple. Hitting 3 or 4 against Riverside when the game was getting tough, absolutely fantastic. One of 2 Bruins in double figures. And then Dylan Andrews, of course, the winner, putting the team on his shoulders, taking Lazar's usual 38 minutes and doing that himself, shouldering the load to do just a little bit of everything. 17 points, 5 assists to only 2 turnovers, and found himself in crunch time, getting the ball down the court and just taking it to the cup. And I figured if he's got the ball in his hands, he's going to score or win this game. And the Bruins absolutely did that. Even though UCLA is struggling to rebound the ball, struggling to shoot from three consistently. I know they have better three-point shooting numbers, and they shot about 39% from three against UC Riverside. But there will be games they're going to get outshot significantly from three, and Andrews is doing his best to knock him down, take shots, get buckets up and down the court. I'm glad to see him. Overall, very quiet game from Mack, who was banged up at the end of that game. Another potential injury concern for UCLA with Berke with Mack, and we got to see what that means going forward in the game. So full week plus to rest for Cronin, for the Bruins, everybody. And you don't want to lose this game against Nova. It's a sleepy game. It's one of those games you probably have circled on your calendar prior to the season. Week long, a big maybe signature road win, even though Nova, this is not a Jay Wright coached Villanova team. This is a little different. They've lost some local rivalries. It's in the Big Five Classic. They can't seem to be anybody within a few miles of their campus. So the Bruins cannot fall victim. A loss here, and then you still haven't beaten a team from a power conference. Even though the win might not do enough to bolster the resume if Nova doesn't get a good enough start to get back to their preseason hype, UCLA needs to stack those wins, including the ones away from Pauley Pavilion. And this Nova win would represent that for the Bruins and a building block to see a big name and the Bruins take them down. Doesn't matter if they're good or not yet. Got to get victories, gel. With an injury-prone Bruins at the moment, they need to get together, guard the three a little bit better in those longer spurts when teams go on runs, rebound better, and then I hope that Bona and Berke can see more time. One foul trouble, the other one when it comes to injury status between Mack and Berke. A lot in that segment, a lot. And we're going to keep talking UCLA basketball and react to those games after the Nova games, after that CBS Sports Classic when they play Ohio State. And then Maryland's coming to town, even though they haven't been impressive, at the end of December. So a light load in this non-conference. Not that they're not tough games, but maybe not as tough as we would have initially thought looking into December from what the teams have played. Maryland, Ohio State a little bit, and then you've got Villanova. All teams that can go on big runs at the end of their seasons. But UCLA has a chance to stack up some wins, get some confidence before Pac-12 play comes at the end of December. The final season of the Pac-12. Isn't that nutty to say? The Bruins got to win, barely. Now just stack them up, grow, and become a team that dominates defensively, scraps offensively, and is the most hustle-driven, tenacious team going forward by the time the season ends. And that could get them on a deep tournament run. But they are nowhere near that in this team. Nowhere near to making that Final Four run. They're good. They're scrappy in areas, but it has not all come together, and it won't for at least 2.5 months. And you hope not for 2.5 months. You want to peak too early. All right. Now, speaking of peaking too early, maybe it was UCLA football. We were hoping they could have beaten Utah and been a highly ranked team. Instead, the Bruins have faded down the stretch, and we have to settle for the LA Bowl. And the joke is, hey, one, Rob Gronkowski was making all the jokes and having fun when they lost to Arizona and Tucson. Two, you're going to play a winning conference championship winning team who didn't have a head coach and got one while the Bruins were looking for a defensive coordinator. All that next on Locked On UCLA. Whether you're hiring for your small business or in this case like UCLA football, looking for a defensive coordinator and a new quarterbacks coach, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you want to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because they have the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Maybe you're looking in the job portal. Maybe you're in the transfer portal. I don't know, but all you need to know is that LinkedIn isn't like another job board. They've got a vast network of over a billion, with a big B, baby, billion professionals. That makes it the best place to hire because you can get many quality candidates. And you might not have the time or resources to hire because small businesses are wearing so many hats, just like college recruits when they're trying to make their decision only to transfer a season later. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy, and they've launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions and makes the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Second segment for Locked On UCLA. Of course, the big stories are the Bruins, I think now up to 6 guys in the portal. You have 2 coaches in the coaching transfer portal, right? You've got Ryan Gunderson, who is now in Oregon State. You've got Danton Lynn, of course, cross town, doubling his salary. Chip Kelly talking to the media on a Sunday, petitioning for Boise State to hire their interim coach as a full-time head coach. That happened. Weird. I don't really know why that was the case in terms of Chip Kelly talking about that specifically. I wasn't really paying attention to that, but of all things going around, probably wants to deflect every bad feeling elsewhere. And he certainly tried his best, saying, one, we tried our best to keep Danton Lane. I'm not sure what are you going to do? Double his salary? He was going to bolt at the best offer, and he certainly did. Unless Chip Kelly said and shook his hand, please stay. This is as much as you're going to get from UCLA in terms of a pay raise. That's a joke. That is some sarcasm. That's some satire right there. And he bolted across town. Any place else, I think we would have been okay with Danton Lynn going. Anywhere else than where he landed, anywhere else, literally anywhere else, probably, I would have been okay with it. We all would have been okay with it. That just wasn't the case. So the Bruins head to the LA Bowl where they play the Mountain West champions, Boise State, who has their current starting quarterback in the transfer portal. UCLA lost their defensive coordinator, and their backup quarterback has been hurt for a little bit too. So this is not the same Boise State team that just won the Mountain West and went on a run to end the season under an interim head coach who now got the tag taken off for him heading into the bowl game, right? This is a unique game. This isn't the Boise State of old when they could go beat top-tier Oregon teams coached by Chip Kelly in 2009. And I highly doubt at this stage of the game, depending on the outcome of the game, there will be any change in Chip Kelly's status. There's no way. Unless something changes in literally 24 hours from the posting of this podcast, the Bruins have missed their opportunity to fire Chip Kelly prior to the transfer portal opening, getting a guy and doing all that. Now, I know Jed Fish at the moment, I have not read any extensions. I have not read him going anywhere else. I know that's another option for UCLA to hire as they're trying to look for a defensive coordinator and players in the portal if they want to choose things. There will be no coaching carousel for UCLA other than staff assistants wanting to recruit and get those guys, which leaves UCLA to look and say, hey, what are we going to do in the Starco Brands LA Bowl hosted by Gronk, formerly by Jimmy Kimmel, And now you got Gronk. And we already saw what happened with Gronk on the sidelines once, right? Supporting his beloved Arizona Wildcats, jumping on the sideline, racing with the team, jumping with the team on the sideline in Tucson. Yeah, it didn't look so good for the Bruins. Now we hope it's a different setting. It's one of the earlier bowl games in the bowl season. The joke is it's closer than the Rose Bowl, but they still, UCLA, we might be outnumbered by Boise State fans. I don't know. A fake rumor I might start is that somehow the SoFi turf might be blue. I don't know. I would like a win. And again, UCLA has not had a 3-year stretch with 8 or more wins too often in the last 30 to 40 years, right? That is just not something that's happened with UCLA. As much as I want to talk about tradition and everything, that just has not happened. And Chip Kelly, ironically enough, has a chance to do it. I'm not going to sit here and try and change your opinion of Chip Kelly, because I think if we're still on the Chip Kelly bandwagon, that's one thing. If you're on the fire Chip Kelly bandwagon, I won't even bother. There's no way to bother changing your opinion. It's just hoping that there's optimism, one, for the bowl game, and that 2, UCLA can go get one of those prized maybe QB portal guys. If you don't, stick with Ethan Garbers as your starting option. Multiple guys, ironically enough, who were in the portal last season are in the portal this season. This show is not about portal options. We're going to have that coming up for Locked On UCLA, so you're going to have to wait for that bad boy right there. The LA Bowl, you're going to go against Spencer Danielson and his Boise State Broncos, potentially with his 3rd string QB. And regardless, if we remember a team playing with their non-starting quarterback, lots of backup options, and UCLA is favored, you would think, and the Bruins having much less travel going to the bowl game, even though that doesn't really matter for a bowl game, you would think that seems eerily familiar to last year's Sun Bowl when Pitt had a lot of guys out offensively and defensively, quarterback, everything, and the Bruins were a little shorthanded, came up a little short. Now, while UCLA may not have Latu, I would be surprised if he plays, still to be determined. And Chip Kelly says there might be some guys who are in the portal right now that might play. I wonder if it's a grad transfer, if it's an offensive lineman and Jake Wiley. I'm not sure who those guys might be at this very juncture this time. Here we are, UCLA favored early right now to beat Boise State. I think they should be. If Boise State's quarterback hadn't been in the portal, you could almost lay the points with Boise State in this. That would be an interesting matchup. That would be an interesting one there. And I think you get a lot more bets going towards Boise State. Man, we get to see after all that talk, we've got the 3 options for UCLA football, right? Rose Bowl, SoFi, on campus. All right, you knock off the on-campus option, and you get to see what UCLA looks like in a designated home game, if you will, in a bowl game at SoFi Stadium. What does that look like? Now, it's not going to be the same turnout of a regular season game or a Big Ten team coming to Southern California or a UCLA SC game, but we get a little glimpse, right, of what it looks like for UCLA to play in SoFi. Maybe it's pretty cool. Maybe you realize, hey, the tailgating situation sucks. It's going to cost an arm and a leg to get here, not even have a good tailgating situation, and then go watch a game inside, kind of. I think the Bruins will have a fun game. It'll be a fun early bowl season, and we'll talk about it relatively quickly after the game, we hope. And as soon as this 2023 season ends, it's basketball season. But I will talk more portal. I will go over more coaching changes if there are more guys who jump in the portal, all that coming up on the next Locked On UCLA episode and episodes throughout the week building up to UCLA Nova, up to UCLA Boise State, and the Bruins going to the LA Bowl hosted by Gronk, right? Literally, basically in their own backyard, even closer than the Rose Bowl. All right, so let's go support our Bruins. Give them love. If some of those seniors come back, we can give them a true senior day with real love and hopefully send them out victorious, which would be Chip Kelly's first bowl victory in his 6th year at UCLA. Those are just the facts, and we're running with it here on Locked On UCLA. Speaking of running and gunning, the Bruins women's basketball team, absolutely dominant. Number 2 in the country. They need love. They're going to be playing SC, I think, with students not there or maybe there. UCLA's got 2 big Pac-12 matchups. End of December, early January, mid-January, I think it's the Trojans twice. Early on in the conference season, they are doing good things. And they just be an SEC school in a true road game in dominant fashion. Next on Locked On UCLA. As the weather gets colder and the NFL offers will stay hot on FanDuel. You're getting chilly. Heck, I'm even in a sweater in SoCal, baby. But right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. Yeah, go check it out because that's $150 if your team wins. Because if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use, a wide range of betting options available from spreads, player props, and more. Go visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season. Hey, the Bruins, I think, an early slim betting favorite against the Broncos in the bowl game. Check it out. Meanwhile, FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. In terms of using the portal effectively, UCLA women's basketball, I think, despite whatever rankings you might see, got the perfect fit for their team that might take them to championship levels, a level this program has never seen, even prior to Corey Close. She's been building and getting 5 stars, getting top recruiting classes, having to compete with the UConns, nearby with the Stanfords for now as conference rivals, and wanting to grow a game that's vastly widening in appeal, entertainment, and all that. So UCLA, number 2 in the country, with Lauren Betts, I think for now, while they are not deep at the position, considering Emily Bissoir not been in the lineup for quite a few games now, Lauren Betts has been the player UCLA needed a year later, right? And now with Osborne and Cam Brown coming back, the freshmen turning into sophomores, this is almost like a collision course for everything going good. Think about this. Lauren Betts is like UCLA's 2022 offense in football met their 23 defense. And they played in the same year with Danton Lynn as the defensive coordinator. That is what it feels like with Lauren Betts on this year's team, with Osborne coming back, shooting at a much better percentage than the year prior, having to do a lot less offensively unless she needs to, which she hasn't had to so far this season. The freshmen are a year older, but still young and very talented. And despite the Bissoir absence at the moment, because they haven't, as from what I've seen, officially come out and commented on one of their key players of this team, still are very, very good. I was worried about how Bissoir's injury or whatever, because they haven't officially commented on anything. And it didn't happen at UCLA. Going internationally, playing and having what I believe to be a non-contact knee injury. Not official, though. That is not official. So don't quote me on that in terms of what UCLA said from anything I've seen. They have not commented, at least publicly, from what I've seen. Still, what I'm talking about, though, the Bruins 7-0, unbeaten. They've got an easy, hopeful cupcake game coming up pretty soon. They dominated Arkansas on the road by 15 points in Fayetteville at Bud Walton Arena. 81-66. Yeah, they won by 15. Zach, was it close and they pulled away? No. Do they have second quarter struggles? No. You reversed those this time. UCLA led after the first quarter against the Arkansas Razorbacks. If you get the joke, you just have to look at it online. UCLA, 1, led after the first quarter on the road. 2, dominated with their best scoring second quarter. 3, kept the gas pedal on, kept pedal to the metal in the third quarter, doubling the Razorbacks numbers, 22-11. And in a game where they led by 28 heading into the fourth quarter, they really could have sent out any select 5 players and they could have cakewalked to victory in dominant fashion. This is an Arkansas team that's 7-2, has a couple more games under their belt than UCLA, a win over, I believe, a top 15 team, they have a big win. And the Bruins took them down handedly in easy fashion. They dominated. They get to play Ohio State and Connecticut coming up. I think they got the CSUN game first. UCLA women's hoops, man, they have a chance to make some statements. A Sunday matinee, a Sunday morning game on the West Coast on national television where they can show everybody, hey, we deserve more national TV time, that we're good. Lauren Betts, a double-double, 20 and 10, a perfect 9 for 9 on the field. She's bringing that rebounding prowess, the defensive presence in the paint, and the ease at scoring the paint they just have not had to combine with good guard play that the Bruins are missing in the previous season. Now, I know Kiki Rise hitting some threes and getting some buckets. She's big time, 5 assists, 8 rebounds. She's doing it all. But then you've got Dugalik, who, when she gets her three-point stroke going and hits a lot of threes, man, she will be interesting to see how that plays out for UCLA. And then you've got Quinza Osborne, who only scored 8 points. Imagine UCLA in a game in any of the previous seasons, specifically last year, where Osborne had less than 10 points, had 4 turnovers. The Bruins had 22 turnovers. Osborne had 7 shots, 8 points. She didn't really do much. And the Bruins dominated, like literally kicked the other team's butt, like destroyed them. A laughingstock game. Yeah, hard pressed to find that. That's what happens when you've got the semi-depth. They've got a lot of really good players. Their talent is deep. I'm just not sure how deep they are at specific positions at the roles they have, right? Nobody can bring in what Charisma Osborne has. Nobody can bring the ability to stretch the floor that Bessoir has, or the ability she has at the size she is. Betts provides something different, and I think that's the missing piece, which is why UCLA for now is still succeeding at the clip they are, even without one of their key players in the lineup in the post. A stretch 4, right? Now, Betts, what a steal to get from Stanford. Ripping them from your conference rival, longtime rival. I can't wait for that UCLA-Stanford matchup, Brink versus Betts, when the Betts and Brink matchup will be interesting, especially with those two former teammates, now nemesis. And then UCLA, man, goodness gracious. Chance to stack up some wins. You get the Juju Watkins battle coming up pretty soon. And this is a team that's doing good. Gabi Jaquez has been making some strides from freshman to sophomore. They're all doing things. And heck, I didn't even mention London Jones, who had a poor shooting night against Arkansas. A game the Bruins turned it over 10 more times their opponent. That's a terrible number. And the game was never in doubt. Never in doubt. UCLA was 4-15 in the fourth quarter, and they basically could have walked out there, dribbled, and taken a shot clock violation every time and won the game. That's basically what happened for UCLA, right? That's not exactly what happened, but they dominated so much so that they're looking like a top-tier contender to make it to the Final Four and then win a championship. Now, what are they going to do when their crosstown rival comes in? When they got to play Stanford, the Pac-12 play will get extremely tough. I think this is a team built to weather the storm. I don't think they're going to go undefeated this year. I just hope they got everything clicking when March comes around and they can win some tight ball games and Osborne makes some clutch shots. And Betts can be a big post presence, and hopefully she does not get in foul trouble in a big time game when they need her to score. That will be the difference, I think, in UCLA's season. It'll come down to one game. It'll be close. Maybe they're playing LSU earlier than expected. Maybe they're playing UConn again. I don't know. Maybe they're playing somebody else. Whatever it is. It's going to come down to Osborne making a late hoop is my prediction, my early season prediction, and Betts staying out of foul trouble. Not that she's ever really had to deal with that, but that is the key. Staying out of foul trouble in a key game and dominating an opponent down the line. That is something. Those are the two keys I think that'll lead UCLA to go deep in a March Madness run. Because this team's going in the tournament. I think they're Sweet 16 bound. I think they would avoid any first-round upsets, second-round upsets, even Sweet 16 upsets. It's going to come down to a Sweet 16 Elite 8 game that'll be a lot tighter. Everything's gripping. First Final Four chance on the line. That is the difference for this team. It'll come down to 60 seconds in March. Do they win those 60 seconds or not? And if you do that again and again, you might sniff a national championship run. If they falter, then this team will be a great team in UCLA's history. We hope they go as deep as they can go in this tournament. All right, I'm excited. 7-0, number 2 in the country. And hopefully South Carolina takes a big fat L at some point and the Bruins can be number 1. That's a big mark to have. But hey, I think this team's got it. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. Locked On UCLA. We're going to talk more portal. We're going to talk quarterbacks. Maybe look at some defensive coordinator. I've already thrown out the Ken Norton Jr. idea. Let's see what they got. And we'll go more in depth as to what's been leaving UCLA and what could potentially be coming in for the Bruins with decommitments, high school-wise, portal commitments from Bruins going into the portal, and guys they can grab for the portal. All next on Locked On UCLA. 8 clap time. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.